So, welcome to the day 10 of UGC-NET Paper I class. Sorry for the delay, there were some network issues here. So, today, as you have all requested, I am just jumbling between the units. Previously, yesterday we have completed Unit 1, that is theory. Now we are moving on to the numerical part, the reasoning part. So, we have skipped to Unit 5. Today in Unit 5, we are going to see through types of reasoning. So this is the Unit 5 content. So in the upcoming classes we will see all the number series, letter series, all those things. So today's topic is types of reasoning. So first thing, what is reasoning? So in general terms, we need some justification for what we are doing or what thing is happening. So that could be said as reasoning. Here we can say it as reasoning is a process of evaluation. So here reasoning is an operation done with respect to a discussion that is ongoing. So when a thing is happening, we are having a discussion based on a particular topic which is written or prepared, so that we can come to a justification on that particular topic. So reasoning also refers to the ability to think logically and make informed decisions. So when we are targeting or analyzing something based on our reasoning capability, we are judged on our intellectual basis. So while aptitude represents a person's inherent talent and potential to excel, say aptitude and reasoning are different. So our aptitude is representing a person's talent and potential to excel in a specific area, but reasoning here clearly refers to the ability to think logically and make informed decisions. So this process, the reasoning process, involves the process of analyzing information and evaluating options, drawing conclusions based on logic and evidence. Whatever evidence we have gathered or data we have gathered, based on that we are finally concluding a conclusion, coming up with a solution. It is similar to our own thesis itself, where we are drawing hypothesis. Based on the hypothesis we are testing it, and based on the results obtained we are coming to a conclusion. We are suggesting that this is happening here or that might not happen there. So such things we are doing. So it aids in problem solving and decision making and critical analysis. So these are the reasoning things. What is reasoning? So such things are there. The next one is types of reasoning. So this is our today's main topic. Please note that here almost 7 types of reasoning is there. So we have written so many times exams, and we might have attended various government exams or whatever. We might have attended all such reasonings, but we may not remember or we may not know the name of what particular reasoning is. So we are going to see in the upcoming slides. So first is deductive reasoning, inductive reasoning, analogical reasoning, abductive reasoning, cause and effect reasoning, critical thinking, decompositional reasoning. So the first one is deductive reasoning, or it could be also said as statement analysis. So what is deductive reasoning? So deductive reasoning particularly deals with truth and logic. So where the total process, because of this thing, the total process is carried out from top to bottom, that is top down approach or top down logic, as it is mentioned here. So deductive reasoning involves gradually collecting all the logical facts from the premises. Here please note that the statements given is called as premises. So we are collecting the data, gathering information from the premises or the statements given and narrowing them down until a logical conclusion is made. So deductive reasoning refers to concluding or extrapolating the facts to get a specific outcome. Please note again, we are trying to reach a particular result. So no matter how many people are interacting or going on through the same thing, we all are focusing on obtaining the final conclusion, same result. So here we are trying to reach a specific outcome. Yes, who is that? Someone might have unmuted. Guys, okay. So this type of reasoning is also called syllogisms. So syllogisms na enna neenga idhukku munadi maybe padichirkalam, you might have heard it or might not. So we do have one slide in the upcoming end one. So now you just remember, syllogism is also known as deductive reasoning, or deductive reasoning is also known as syllogism. So deductive reasoning mainly consists of three parts. First premise, that is first statement, then second premise, second statement. Based on these two statements, we are coming to a conjecture point. So that is known as conclusion. So நம்ம question பாத்தீங்கன்னா we will be getting these two sentences, and based on these two sentences we are arriving at a conclusion. So that is known as deductive reasoning. Here the official term for two or more sentences, as I said in the previous slide, the official term where the statements are given can be said as premise. Premises are true, usually true in nature, and hold factual information. So they don't lie, there won't be any misleading of information. So a conclusion is called conjecture, which refers to the observations or guesses drawn from the known facts. So premises and conclusions are combined and known as argument. On the statement we are in the based on this fact I am arriving at this conclusion. So based on this conclusion we are making an argument, or we are conversing. So in deductive reasoning the argument is given another name as valid argument. So nama oru in even a common argument, who will be appeared or who will be approached more, the person who has a valid point in arguing. So such person or that such argument would be considered as an answer. So in our question pattern, the valid argument, so whichever it is, there might be two or three options, but which is most relevant, that could be called as valid argument. So a valid argument also refers to a logically necessary. So in logical reasoning the content doesn't matter but the method. So how we are approaching. So deductive reasoning's conclusion is always true. So here deductive reasoning's conclusion is always true as the conclusion necessarily follows the stated facts and becomes a logical. Ipo nama vandu questions in the final section we are having questions. There we will be having two statements, and based on that we are arriving a answer. So if the statements are correct, then the answer drawn from the statements would also be correct and would also be logical. That's what they are trying to say here. So that is deductive reasoning. Next, inductive reasoning. So inductive reasoning is a just different or reverse approach. It goes from bottom to top. So to validate observations, inductive reasoning employs theories and assumptions. We assume certain things or we assume certain theories. It is the polar opposite of deductive reasoning in that it requires a deducing a general rule from specific cases. So here we are employing conclusions from observations to make generalizations. Like so today in the December month it ran heavily, it rained down heavily, poured in Chennai. So I am based on this observation, I am concluding that next year it might rain the similar way. So based on my collective data, I am assuming that fact for the future. So that is the total process. Here we are extrapolating, forecasting. So everything comes under inductive reasoning. So what they have given here, inductive reasoning is a method of argument in which the premises are viewed as supplying some evidence for the truth of conclusion. In the deductive reasoning, the premises are factual points. Here, they could be considered as somewhat relevant truth, not a complete truth, not a factual one. So they are supplying some evidence for the truth, or we can even say they could be complete evidence also, but we are not drawing a definitive conclusion. So most of these dictionaries define inductive reasoning . So most of these dictionaries define inductive reasoning as the derivation of general principles from specific observation. So now we are trying to formulate a theory, or we are trying to formulate a principle based on certain statements or facts. That's how we are trying to achieve. Best example in cricket, where we used to compare for first team. At the 5th over, they were this runs, this many wickets. So they are here. Based on that, they will just judge that whether they will win or not. Most of the cases, it would be correct only. Some rare cases, the scenario would be reversed. So that is also inductive reasoning. So inductive reasoning begins with observations that are specific and limited in scope. So then proceeds to a generalized conclusion that is likely but not certain in light of accumulated evidence. So we are observing certain things which the observations are very limited to a point, certain point, and based on that observations we are making a generalized conclusion. That conclusion may be certain or not certain. Both things are possible. So based on that evidence we are forming a generalized conclusion. That's what inductive reasoning. Next. So this is the comparison between deductive and inductive. So knowledge creation. In deductive reasoning, no new knowledge is created. We are just arriving at the final answer. Just we are trying to prove a point. But in an inductive reasoning, it provides a new knowledge. So that is the theory formulation. Everything comes under inductive reasoning. Next, types of approach. So deductive reasoning is a top-down approach, top to bottom, downward process, where we are trying to reach to a specific conclusion. But the reverse version is inductive reasoning. We are the whole process is upward, where we are trying to reach the generation of principles or theories. So pace of process. So here deductive reasoning is very quick because principles and theories already exist. Here it is a slow process because theory needs to be created. Next type of method. It is method of instruction. Here it is method of discovery. Next is scope. Scope of activity is narrower in the method. We cannot since we are trying to reach a particular goal or point, we would be narrowed down and focusing on that particular point. But here it is not such, because we are assuming, so that we can assume anything and we can generalize anything. Next, level of dependence. So it makes the researcher to depend on the existing sources. He cannot create any new source. Here the researcher is self-dependent and took the initiative to formulate new knowledge. So where new theories are formed, all the theories comes under inductive reasoning. Next is analogical reasoning. Analogical reasoning is a style of reasoning that looks for similarities between two or more objects, then uses those similarities to find other properties they share. We are comparing two different vehicles, where let's take example as a Honda Activa and TVS Scooty. Both are the counterpart TVS Jupiter. So both are similar in shape. Both does run on a petrol. So both have certain features similar to each other. So we are comparing first the similarities. Then using those similarities, we are trying to find out what are all the other properties we are sharing. So straight away, they both are two-wheelers and they both have all the now recent features. They both have tubeless tires and they are running on petrol. Based on these three alone, we are again comparing the fuel efficiency, mileage, and then what battery backup power, CC, everything we are comparing. So that is the analogical reason. It is based on the brain's tendency to notice patterns and make connections. So random we are trying to make pattern and assume all these kinds are coming to similar, like Coca-Cola, Pepsi, and Fanta, Miranda. So both are from different companies, but the flavor and even almost the bottle design also would be similar. So in the word analogy in Latin to a Greek word that comes from analogous, meaning means proportionate. It is here, it is similar. So what it is similar, other thing also. So it determines the association between various things, incidents, elements, places, etc. So where it is doing applied. So analogical reasoning is applied. It plays an essential role in solving any problem, making decisions, creativity, memory, explanation, and communication. So we understand the words in general form and then choose the option according to the similarities. So categories of analogical reasoning. Please note that the categories I am types or categories I am put down in the slide. Everything is narrowed down to the question paper pattern. So here we have numeric analogy, next alphabetical analogy, next numeric alphabetic merging analogy, general science based analogy, general knowledge based analogy, grammar related analogy. I have given all the questions for each reasoning type. So when the slides question pattern is coming, I will explain how it is being done. So you might know, you have seen everything in the previous year question papers when you have attended, but you just might not remember the exact name of that. So we will be seeing in the next upcoming slides. So abductive reasoning. So here abductive reasoning, where it is a style of reasoning where it tries to reach the logical conclusion based on a single observation or a group of observations. So it is similar to inductive reasoning, but here it allows us to make greatest estimates to get the simplest conclusions. So abduction can help us both troubleshooting and decision making. We can find when the things are uncertain or not sure, we can try to troubleshoot the problem and make the relevant decisions. So here what they are saying is the abductive reasoning refers to the thought process involved in a judgment. So what explanation underlies a group of facts? When we are reading a certain fact, or when we are trying to understand a subject, we are going through a judgmental process in our own minds. So that process is known as abductive reasoning. So in simple words, it is called as inference. I think in those who have in chemistry group, or who have read in chemistry in the 12th, when writing the salts, we can infer. There would be a term called inference. We are coming up to a certain point. We are trying to implying a point. So that is known as inference. So it can also be called as inference to the best explanation, because the goal of abductive reasoning is to ascertain which of the explanation is considered the best or plausible. So here we do have 2 to 3 or more than 3 explanations. We are trying to understand which is the most simplest and most plausible explanation for the happening. So there we are inferring that type of reasoning is known as abductive reasoning. So here first of all, abductive reasoning involves forming a hypothesis. So that could not explain the available evidence even if it's not certain. Next, deductive reasoning it guarantees the conclusion if the premises are true, or in inductive reasoning it generalizes from specific examples. But abductive reasoning is more about guessing the most plausible cost. So here you see that we have given the 3 things. So based on general rules, we are arriving at a specific case, that is deductive reasoning. So certain conclusion is attained. In inductive reasoning, specific examples are given. Based on that examples, we are forming a new rule. So forming a general rule, we are generalizing it. So that is a probable conclusion. Here there is, in simple words, here it is only one solution. Here there may be one or two solutions. Here also there may be one or two solutions or even more than two solutions. But the thing is, here not more than two, or even all the things could be considered possible. But here only the most possible or most easiest possible thing would be considered. So here what they are doing, incomplete observations, based on that they are making a best guess. So that is the difference between these three. Next is cause and effect reasoning. So cause and effect means there would be a cause, and because of that there would be a effect would be happening, or in our exam pattern there might be effect would be given. We should be trying to understand the cause. So it is a style of reasoning in which the relationship between two events is demonstrated. So compulsorily there should be two events. One is effect and another one is cause. They can be when effect is given, we have to identify the cause, or when cause is given, we have to judge the effect. So this logic is used to describe what might happen if a certain action, நமக்கு வந்து இது நடந்தால் அது நடக்கும், இது நடப்பதால் அது நடக்க வாய்ப்பு இருக்கிறது. So we will be saying no, one if I am going to board a flight, I can reach very fastly. Illa if I am sleeping early, I can wake up early. So when if I don't sleep early, then I might not wake up early. So one thing, in order to happen one thing, another thing must definitely happen. So that is the cause and effect. So here people draw the conclusions, their own conclusions, based on personal experience and a drive to improve. So this form of reasoning is frequently used to guide daily decision making. நம்ம எந்த ஒரு விஷயத்தையுமே we used to judge based on our own experience and mentality. So we will be talking about why it is being done. ஒரு சின்ன விஷயத்துக்கு இது ஏன் அப்படி பண்றீங்க, why we are doing that, why you haven't done that, like that we would be discussing. So that is the cause and effect. So here evidence and proof are presented to show how an event took place or how something have happened. So compulsorily two things, as I said, two statements or two events should present. The cause is simply the reason for the occurrence of an event, while the effects include the outcomes of the event that occurred. So inga pathina same namukku adu, I think you guys might know, so I don't want to overdo the thing. So one is the reason, another one is the conclusion. So how did this happen? That is the main purpose of this logical reasoning. So there must be a sufficient necessary condition for any event to occur. In order, if we have to go and find this kind of reasoning, there must be a sufficient or necessary condition for any event to occur. So that is known as cause. Here we have three types of cause. One is principal cause, another is immediate cause, and third one is common cause. So in immediate cause, so in principal cause, here see the example, Ferran is always sick because he does not eat well. So the principal cause is he doesn't eat well, that's why he is sick. So there is a principal cause here. Next is immediate cause. Declan hit Adam after he found out Adam had eaten his food. So once he found out the problem, he immediately took action. So that is the immediate cause. So when Adam had eaten Declan's food, Declan has hit him. Next is the common cause. There we are going for two statements. The first statement is there is a high shortage of food due to the increased death of plants. That is one statement. And second statement is totally irrelevant to the first statement. The water bodies are drying up. So please note that. Just a minute. This for the time. So here the total, because comparing these two statements, we are assuming what is the cause is there is a drought or there is a panjam irukku. Because of that drought, there is a high shortage of food due to the death of plants. Next, water bodies are drying up. So we are arriving at a common cause. See here, this statement is not same as the second statement, but based on these two are effects. Why it is coming that we are assuming a common cause, that is there is a drought here. So these are the types of causes. Next is critical thinking. Critical thinking means we have to delve deeply. How best means we have to think more in depth, about a particular topics. So in order to reach a very particular definitive conclusion. So here computing, engineering, social sciences and logic all benefit from this critical thinking process. So day to day life we are using critical thinking for our own works, because we are trying to solve the problems, and when technological challenges we are trying to adapt that. So here note that critical thinking goes against the basic premise also known as dogma. So dogma in the term, and please you guys remember dogma. Dogma is known as unquestionable knowledge, where information that is accepted without the intervention of practical thought or criticism. Best udarno, I don't know, I'm sorry if I'm offending some of you guys. Still, the best example that comes to my mind is religionism. Religion, we are believing, no, so certain things or certain beliefs proposed by each religion, most of us are believing it, accepting it without any questioning that person conveying it. So here we are accepting the concepts of the religionism without any thought or criticism. That kind of mentality or that kind of acceptism is known as dogma. So critical thinking is the opposite of dogma. So it tries to grasp any relevant and easy way to attain the scientific evidence. So that's how critical thinking involves thinking, analyzing, reasoning and evaluating ideas and beliefs diligently and effectively. That's how critical thinking should be ideally done objectively without being influenced by personal feelings, beliefs or biases, and only focus on facts. So in court and all we have know that lady having that scales taras vechirupangala, so andha mari kanna kattikittu we should not have any personal feelings, influence of our personal feelings or biases, beliefs. So we should only focus on the facts. That is known as critical thinking. Components of critical thinking. இதுல வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா critical thinking would be influenced by certain things. So first one is sentiment. Obviously, when again I'm going back for the example of religion. So when the basic principle of religion is affected or criticized in anywhere, the people who are very much sentiment towards that particular religion are protesting against the person who have made such comments. So that sentiment plays main thing. Next is assumptions. So ஒரு விஷயம் யோசிக்கும் போது we assume certain things. This இப்படி நடந்திருக்கலாம், அப்படி நடந்திருக்கலாம். We are jumping on from this could have happened, that could have happened. So we are assuming things and based on that we are reaching that. Next, language and thinking are inextricably linked. So language and thinking also influences our one, because our grandmother or grandfather, they might not know many languages like English or some other languages. They might know only their own mother tongue. When coming to the next set of generation, our father and mother, they could have learned also English, just English. Nowadays, we do have access for many online classes and everything. So we are learning more than 2 languages, not just our own mother tongue or English alone. We are learning few other things also. Because of this, our own understanding and ability to convey certain things changes from our own grandfather and grandmother as well as our own parents. So here language and thinking are inextricably linked because both serve 3 fundamental goals. One is educating, convincing and describing. Because of this, critical thinking affects, because when we go to a new state, the person who speaks the mother tongue of that particular state, those people would favor towards that person, even though there might be some positive side towards us. So this language and thinking influences. Next is logic. We used to try to identify the logic possible. So there we do not think of other things which does not carry out our own logic. Next is argument. How best the argument is based. So there are one hour. I think you can say it is a process also. First is our own sentiment. Because of our own sentiment, we are assuming certain things, and based on our assumptions, we are conveying our own thinking through our own language to others, and we combinedly tries to identify the logic. So once we reach a certain logic or point, we are arguing that point. This can be said in this way also. So these are the components of critical thinking. Next, again, this is related to our question paper, not main subject. So critical reasoning question types. First is strengthening. So you would be asked a question where the statement will be given. You have to increase or strengthen the given statement by your own option, by your answer. Then weaken. Here, this is the opposite of the first one, where a statement would be given. You have to weaken the statement by the answer you are giving. Next, third one is inference. As I said, you will be given 2 random statements. There, based on the facts that 2 statements are providing, you have to infer, conclude, or come at a point and make up your answer. Fourth one is assumptions. Here inference 99% it is a factual point, but assumptions not such, because you have to assume certain things. This could have happened or this might not have happened. So based on your own assumptions, you are concluding for an answer. Last one is a paradox. So paradox is a very tricky thing, because in the term paradox itself conveys in simpler manner, 2 statements would be given. The first statement and second statement nullify each other. So where you cannot come at a definitive solution, because if you arrive at any particular solution, that solution deviates either one of the point. That is how paradox is working. So a simple udaharanam, grandfather paradox. I don't know how many of you have heard that. In time travel, there is a term called grandfather paradox. If you are a time traveler, so you are time traveling to the past and you go there and murder your grandfather or kill your grandfather. So once you have murdered your grandfather does not exist. So that if your grandfather does not exist means your father won't exist. So do you. If your father is not there, you wouldn't have born. So you couldn't have killed your grandfather. Again, if you couldn't have killed your grandfather would be alive. So your father would be alive. Next, you would be alive to time travel. So this is the grandfather paradox in physics, in physical time travel terms. So it is a one simple example. So next slide, last reasoning, decompositional reasoning. So decompositional reasoning means we are in a statement, we are dividing, parting it into a smaller parts. So based on the smaller parts, we are analyzing each part separately. Based on the observations we have made for each part, we are arriving at a final conclusion. So here this type of methodology is used in numerous disciplines like science, engineering, marketing. So எப்படின்னு பாத்தீங்கன்னா whatever, even our own thesis also, while preparing this slide I saw example for a thesis also. In our thesis itself, introduction is a part, and profile of the company while writing report, whatever field we are choosing, then our research methodology, and then data collection, data analysis, findings and suggestions, conclusion. Each are subjected as a chapter. So each chapter requires a different kind of work from the same person. If I am a scholar, I am trying to write my thesis. For introduction and review of literature, I have to solely focus on the previous review or previous articles displayed or published in the relevant topic I am researching. So there I am getting relevant data and I am imparting that in my report. When comes to the data collection, I have to justify my data collection based on the reliability, validity test, everything. So I have to collect, how form a questionnaire. Each one is a separate process. So each process gives me a different kind of work, takes different kind of time, but by the time of completion, I am compiling all my works and I am submitting it as my thesis report. So that is how in the problematic thing we are dividing a biggest statement into smaller minor statements or points, key points. Based on the observing minor key points, we are arriving at a conclusion. So here decompositional reasoning allows an observer to derive powerful conclusion about the total by evaluating each portion separately. So இதுக்கு ஒரு best example here they are given. A manager allocates each component to an individual who is responsible for its completion. Simply production department, packing department, marketing department or company. So that's how it is. And for its responsible for its completion and communication regarding its incorporation into the project. So this division assures the success of each component and contributes to the overall operation. So that is the decompositional reasoning. Next is syllogism. Now in the first slide I have told about that deductive reasoning. So syllogism, you guys might have heard of Venn diagram. So circle we are combining. So syllogism is a process where we are trying to arrive at a conclusion. So it is a Greek word for conclusion. Deductive reasoning is used in syllogism to conclude by logical argument or statements. இப்போ வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா in the question I will say, so where we will be drawing Venn diagrams. Based on the Venn diagrams, we are arriving at the conclusion. So here please note that syllogism can be achieved by many processes, but using a Venn diagram is the most effective and efficient approach of all. So here this is the total process. Next is types of syllogism questions. So basic syllogism, only they are trying to find out absolute truth. So false conclusions will be evaluated even if they are 99% accurate. Then the next one is either or situation, either this or that. So ஒரு diagram நீங்க மேக்ஸ்ல வரைஞ்சிருந்தீங்கன்னா you might have known. So when drawing a Venn diagram, you either get this thing or that thing. Likewise we can achieve. So here conclusions aren't 100% true, but the two offered conclusions are 50% correct. Next is coded syllogism. So here statement and conclusions are encoded in the syllogism reasoning. நம்ம வந்து வரைகிற மாதிரி we are drawing circles in the Venn diagram. We are trying to form a certain code and we are trying to decipher or decode the statements and conclusions. So that is the coded syllogism. Next is sequential syllogism. So one choice we are doing and நம்ம flow chart மாதிரி தான் we are doing one thing, based on that we are going for the second thing. So that's how all these things are done. So these are the first and second assertions must be logically connected to get to the third statement. If the first two statements are not there is any discrepancy, we cannot arrive at the third statement. So next is modus ponens and modus tollens. I don't want to complicate you guys. I'm just giving a simple example. So the term modus tollens refers to conclusions. So when A is there means therefore there is a B. So here when an angle is inscribed in a semicircle, it is a right angle. So one semicircle, if they are drawing or inscribing an angle, it is a right angle. But however, when the angle is not a right angle, so it could not be inscribed in a semicircle. That is how they are arriving at this. So we are drawing conclusions based on a statement. One complete statement is given. So here the second statement does not comply with the first statement. So we are arriving at the conclusion that the angle is not inscribed in the semicircle. This is known as modus tollens. Modus tollens means it is conclusions. But next is, modus ponens. Modus ponens is just opposite of that. So where we try to arrive at one set of conclusion. So I don't want to complicate because everything is somewhat mathematical oriented. So in the problems we will try to solve. So I don't want to complicate with all those notations here. So next is, these are the inference rules. So when we are going for a critical reasoning or critical thinking, we are trying to arrive at three inference rules. First is modus ponens. So this rule states that if a statement is true, then that is, if I know the statement is true, then I logically can infer that another statement is also true. So based on the first statement, I am definitively proving, assuming or concluding that the second statement is also true. So here they have given example. If I know that it is raining and that the ground is wet, then I can infer that it rained recently. So ஒரு கிரவுண்ட் வந்து ஈரமா இருக்கு அண்ட் கொஞ்ச நேரத்துக்கு முன்னாடி மழை பெஞ்சது, கிரவுண்ட் ஈரமா இருக்கு அப்படின்னா I can assume that the raining has happened very recently only. So modus tollens is if a statement is false, and here note that ponens is true and tollens is false. If a statement is false, then I can logically infer that another statement is also false. So if I know that the same example they are given, if I know that it is not raining and the ground is wet, so then I can infer here it did not rain recently. Next is the hypothetical syllogism. So this rule states that if I know two statements, நம்ம ஏற்கனவே syllogismத்துல அந்த last thing we have seen, no, that one. So if two statements are true, then I can logically infer that the third statement is also true. So here again they are giving the same example. If I know that both it's raining and the ground is wet, then I can infer that the ground will be wet tomorrow also. So here note that மழை பெய்யுது, இந்த ஃபர்ஸ்ட் ஒன் மழை பெஞ்சது, கிரவுண்ட் ஈரமா இருக்குது, அதனால நான் கிரவுண்ட் ஈரமா இருக்கிறத வச்சு இப்பதான் மழை பெஞ்சது ரீசெண்டா, ஐ எம் அசியூமிங் தட். இந்த செகண்ட் ஒன் மழை இப்ப பெய்யல, கிரவுண்ட் ஆனா ஈரமா இருக்கு, சோ நான் அதை வச்சு மழை பெய்யாததுனால மழை இப்ப பெய்யல அப்படின்னு சொல்லி நான் ஐ எம் அசியூமிங். த தேர்ட் ஒன் இஸ் மழையும் பெய்யுது, கிரவுண்டு ஈரமா இருக்குது, அதனால நாளைக்கு காலையில ஆர் நாளை மதியம் எனக்கு வந்து கிரவுண்டு இன்னமும் ஈரமா தான் இருக்கும் அப்படின்னு ஐ எம் அசியூமிங். ஸோ தீஸ் ஆர் த த்ரீ மெயின் இன்ஃபரன்ஸ் ரூல் இன் கிரிட்டிக்கல் திங்கிங் while solving that. So these are the completion of types of reasoning. Now these are the bibliography, that's all. So